Hello students, welcome back to our Target Prelims 2026 Revision with MCQ series. And today we are going to start with the second episode of Current Affairs, where we'll discuss 10 questions and their explanation. So let's begin with the first question for the day. With reference to the July 2025 advisory opinion of the International Court of Justice on climate change, consider the following statements. 1. The ICJ held that failure by states to prevent serious climate harm constitutes an internationally wrongful act. 2. The advisory opinion makes climate protection a binding obligation, enforceable only through the consent of the affected state. 3. According to the opinion, states are required to regulate greenhouse gas emissions from private corporations within their jurisdiction. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A, 1 and 3 only, B, 1 only, C, 2 and 3 only, or D, 1, 2 and 3. Please take a few seconds, attempt this question, and then we'll come back to the explanation. Done? So here we are talking about the International Court of Justice and an advisory opinion that it issued in July 2025 on climate change. Because the cases of climate change and the serious harm that is being caused to climate are increasing, and that is why the court came up with an advisory opinion where it fixed the responsibility on the states. It said that the states are liable, they will be held responsible if any serious long-term harm is being caused to climate because of them. So the first statement here said that the ICJ held failure by states to prevent serious climate harm constitutes an internationally wrongful act. Yes. So this will constitute to be an internationally wrongful act if the states are not able to prevent any such serious harm that is being caused to climate. Then the advisory opinion makes climate protection a binding obligation, enforceable only through the consent of the affected state. So let's look at this in two parts. This is an advisory opinion. It is not a final judgment, which means it originally is non-binding in nature. So this part where it says binding obligation, no, it is non-binding in nature, but at the same time, it is fixing accountability for the states, and it is doing so in a very strong manner because we do not require the consent of the affected state in order to hold the state liable for any damage that is being caused, any serious damage that is being caused to climate. We do not require the consent of the state. So this part also is incorrect. So the second statement over here is incorrect. And the third statement says that according to the opinion, states are required to regulate greenhouse gas emissions from private corporations within their jurisdiction. So in the first glance, this might appear to be incorrect because here we are talking about regulating the private companies. But this statement is correct because it expanded the jurisdiction of the states also. It said that no, you're not responsible only for the emissions that are being caused by government organizations. You're also responsible for all the emissions that are being caused by private organizations also within your jurisdiction. That is why it is your duty to ensure that greenhouse gas emissions are cut from the private companies as well. So this statement is also correct. So the correct answer here would be option A, 1 and 3 only. So let's look at the explanation. The Telegram channel's link will be pinned in the comments and you will be able to get this PDF there. So you can go ahead and look at the explanation in detail. But very quickly, if we just see that states have a binding duty to prevent serious climate harm and failure to fulfill this obligation constitutes an internationally wrongful act. Then they are also responsible for regulating greenhouse gas emissions from private corporations that fall within their jurisdiction. And this is an advisory opinion, so it is non-binding in nature, but it is highly authoritative and it clarifies the international law because it does not require the consent of the affected states and it applies universally, which means that these obligations are owed by all states and they can be invoked by any affected state because climate change, whenever we look at the damage that is being caused due to climate change, only one state is not into consideration. Climate change causes harm to a lot of states. So we will not have to, in order to invoke this obligation, we will not require the consent of one affected state. Any affected state can basically invoke this obligation. Okay. Moving on to the second question. With reference to the India Electric Mobility Index, consider the following statements. One, it is the composite index launched by NITI Aayog to assess the maturity of electric mobility ecosystem across states and union territories. Two, in the 2024 IEMI rankings, Maharashtra ranked highest overall, followed by Delhi and Chandigarh. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A, 1 only, B, 2 only, C, both 1 and 2, or D, neither 1 nor 2. Please attempt this question. Done? So here we are talking about the Electric Mobility Index, India Electric Mobility Index. So the role of this index is to basically rank the different states and union territories we have in our country based on the electric mobility ecosystem that they have. So we know that we want to transition towards clean energy options. We are looking forward to electric vehicles. But in order to have that implemented, we need to have an entire ecosystem working for that, correct? We'll also have to look at the demand side factors like how much electrification has already been done. Then we'll also have to look at the infrastructure options, like is the infrastructure in place? Do we have appropriate charging infrastructure available everywhere? Then we'll also have to look at the supply side options. We'll have to look at a lot of things like proper research and development. Is it happening or not? Do we have appropriate policies? Are they providing subsidies? Are they encouraging people to move towards electric vehicles or not? So this is a complete ecosystem that needs to be functioning effectively in order for us to transition to electric vehicles. So this index basically ranks these states and union territories based on how well are they performing on these parameters. Okay, so it's a composite index. It is launched by NITI Aayog, yes, to assess the maturity of the electric mobility ecosystem across states and union territories. Correct. Then in the 2024 IEMI rankings, Maharashtra ranked highest overall, followed by Delhi and Chandigarh. So no, this statement is not correct because Delhi ranked the first overall, followed by Maharashtra and Chandigarh. So the correct option would be option A, 1 only. So let's look at the explanation. It's first of its kind composite index to evaluate the maturity of the electric mobility ecosystem across states and union territories. Then according to 2024's index, Delhi ranked the highest overall, followed by Maharashtra and Chandigarh. And here in this index, we are looking at some 16 indicators, and there are 3 core themes: demand side, supply side, and the infrastructure. So transport electrification progress to capture demand side adoption, charging infrastructure readiness, and then EV research and innovation status that covers the supply side ecosystem and R&D efforts. Okay. Moving on to the third question. With reference to the HOPE mission, consider the following statements. 1. It is a ground-based analog mission designed to simulate space-like conditions in order to assess crew readiness for planetary missions. 2. The mission is led by ISRO's Human Space Flight Center and is being conducted at Sokar due to its Mars-like environmental conditions. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A, 1 only, B, 2 only, C, both 1 and 2, or D, neither 1 nor 2. Please attempt this question. Okay, so here we are talking about the HOPE mission. HOPE, that stands for Himalayan Outpost for Planetary Exploration. Himalayan Outpost for Planetary Exploration. So here we are basically trying to simulate the environmental, the atmospheric conditions of other planets, in this case Mars. Because we want to send our crew in the near future, we are looking for such crew-based planetary missions. So in order to do that, we'll first have to simulate the entire environment and see if everything is suitable to support sending crew to such atmospheric conditions. So for that, we have set up this outpost. It's a ground-based outpost and it has been set up in the Sokar Valley, that is in Ladakh. Because it has similar conditions as found on Mars, the similar environmental conditions, similar atmospheric conditions as found on Mars. So based on that, we want to study, we want to derive our atmospheric studies, our environmental studies of Mars, and then we can decide on our crew readiness mission. Okay, so the first statement says that it is a ground-based analog mission designed to simulate space-like conditions in order to assess crew readiness for planetary missions. Yes. The mission is led by ISRO's Human Space Flight Center and is being conducted at Sokar due to its Mars-like environmental conditions. This statement is also correct. So the correct answer over here would be option C, both 1 and 2. Okay. So it's being led by ISRO's Human Space Flight Center in collaboration with industry partners and Indian research institutions. So there are other partners also. In fact, there is a Bangalore-based space tech company also who's another partner. So we have these industry experts also pitching in, and Sokar was selected as the site of this because of its extreme cold, saline permafrost, high ultraviolet radiation and low pressure, which resemble the Martian conditions. So this has been identified as the most suitable spot to simulate Martian conditions, and then we can basically assess our crew-based missions. Okay. Question 4. With reference to the 16th lion population estimation report, consider the following statements. 1. The lion population increased from 674 to 891, representing an increase of about 32%. 2. More than half of the lion population is now found outside protected areas in mosaic landscapes. 3. The reduction of lion habitat range has reduced ecological connectivity compared to 2015 levels. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A, 1 and 2 only, B, 2 only, C, 1 and 3 only, or D, 1, 2 and 3. Please attempt this question. We're talking about the lion population estimation report. Okay. So this is the 16th lion population estimation report, and it found that the lion population in our country, it has increased by about 32%. Number-wise, it has increased from 674 to 891, representing an increase of about 32%. This statement is correct. Because of the conservation efforts of the government when it comes to lion conservation, because of all such efforts, lion population has been increasing. Then, more than half of the lion population is now found outside protected areas in mosaic landscapes. This statement is also correct, that now more than half of the lions are actually being found outside protected areas because their population is now increasing. The carrying capacity of different protected areas that we have, they have already reached their limit. So that's why now these lions, they're also found outside such areas, outside protected areas, like in villages, in farms, and other areas also. So they are not just confined to the protected area, to the national park that we have. They're not just confined to that area. They're also moving out of those protected areas. So this statement is also correct. Mosaic landforms in a mix of different landforms, different landscapes. Then the reduction in lion habitat range has reduced ecological connectivity compared to 2015 levels. Now, has there been a reduction in habitat range? No. In fact, the lions have now started moving out of their protected areas. So the habitat range has now not reduced. It has actually increased. So this part is correct, and it's incorrect because there has been no reduction in the lion habitat range. So ecological connectivity also has not reduced. So the lion population is increasing. Lions are moving out of the protected areas. Now this is also giving rise to more human-wildlife conflict. That is also happening. So that is something that we'll have to take care of. But other than that, it just basically means that the conservation efforts of the government are paying off and the lion population is finally increasing. The habitat range for them is also increasing. So the correct answer would be 1 and 2 only. Option A. Okay, so it was led by the Gujarat Forest Department, Gir National Park, Gujarat Forest Department, 16th lion population estimation, and this is the lion census. Now, this was the first such census since 2020. We saw that the population increased in numbers 32 by percentage, and the report highlights habitat dispersal, noting that over half of the lions now inhabit non-protected mosaic landscapes like villages, like we have farms, like we have other areas. So they are found there, and the habitat range also expanded from 22,000 square kilometers to 35,000 square kilometers, which has increased the ecological connectivity. All right. Moving on to the fifth question. Tato-II Hydro-Electric Project is planned for which of the following states? A. Sikkim, B. Assam, C. Arunachal Pradesh, or D. Meghalaya? Please attempt this question. So such questions are pretty straightforward questions. If you have read about them, only then you will be able to answer them. So the correct answer over here is option C. This is a hydroelectric project which is going to generate electricity from water, planned for Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, so it's a hydroelectric project that is planned for Arunachal Pradesh. In fact, 12% of all such electricity that will be generated from this hydroelectric plant will be available to Arunachal Pradesh for free. And 1% will also be available for, other than this 12%, 1% additional will be available for the local area development near the hydroelectric project site, because we have to develop the entire area that is in proximity to the project. So local area development fund will also be there, and 1% will be given to that fund, and 12% of the electricity that is being generated out of this electric project will be given to Arunachal Pradesh to be used for free, because we are now also the focus of the government is increasing more and more on the northeastern states and their resources. So the correct answer is option C. So this is a 700 megawatt hydropower project planned in the Sri Yomi district of Arunachal Pradesh, and the funding is 8,146 crore. It is going to be implemented as a joint venture between the Northeastern Electric Power Corporation Limited and the government of Arunachal Pradesh. Then, as a part of power sharing arrangement, Arunachal Pradesh will receive 12% free power along with an additional 1% allocation for the local area development fund. All right. Question number 6. Consider the following statements about groundnut production and exports in India. 1. India is the world's largest producer of groundnuts. 2. Groundnuts in India are available throughout the year due to harvesting in both March and October. 3. Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines and Malaysia were major destinations for India's groundnut exports. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A. 1 and 2 only, B. 2 and 3 only, C. 1 and 3 only, or D. 1, 2 and 3. Please attempt this question. Done? So here we are talking about groundnuts and their production. So very recently, Indonesia actually rejected batches of groundnut imports from India because of a poisonous chemical that was being found in it. And the chemical was aflatoxin. So aflatoxin was present in certain batches of groundnut beyond permissible limits, and that is why Indonesia rejected such batches. So when we talk about groundnut, India is one of the major producers of groundnut, but it is not the largest producer of groundnut. It is the second largest producer after China. So number 1 is China and number 2 is India. So India is one of the major producers of groundnut and one of the major exporters of groundnut. So groundnuts are available in India throughout the year due to harvesting in both March and October. Yes. They are available throughout the year. They are a rich source of protein. They are a rich source of good fat, and in fact, because they are cheap, they are actually very, let's say they are very commonly found in the diet of people who are not so rich. So because they have a good source of protein, but they are also very high calorific. So when we compare the absolute weight and the protein that is present in groundnut and chicken and eggs, we'll find that in absolute weight, the protein is definitely higher in groundnut, but at the same time, the calorific value also is very, very high, and it is not a very balanced diet. So in that case, we'll rely more on other sources of protein. But when we talk about vegetarian sources of protein, groundnut actually is a very good source of proteins and also good fats. So it's available throughout the year. There are 2 harvesting seasons. One is in March and one is in October. And then we also export it, and most of the Southeast Asian nations are our major export destinations. Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines and Malaysia were major export destinations for India's groundnut exports. So the correct answer over here would be 2 and 3 only. Okay, so groundnut is regarded as the king of oil seeds. Please remember this also. It is regarded as the king of oil seeds, and it is also known as the wonder nut or poor man's almond. It has a lot of health benefits, and it is also widely available because it's available throughout the year. It is also cheap in nature, so it's known as the poor man's almond. It is available throughout the year due to a 2-crop cycle, which harvests taking place in March and October. It is one of the most important food as well as cash crops of the country. Now, on equal weight basis, groundnuts contain more protein than meat and about twice as much protein in eggs. This is there, but then I already told you that they have a very high calorific value. As an oilseed crop also, groundnut contains approximately 40 to 53% of oil. And India is the second largest producer of groundnuts in the world after China. All right. So we produce a lot of varieties of groundnut. Some names over here. You need not remember all the names, but just for your information. Chandra, Chitra, Kaushal, Prakash, Amber, etc. These are the different names, different varieties of groundnut that we have. And areas of cultivation. Yes, this is important. So it is grown in Gujarat, in Andhra Pradesh, in Tamil Nadu, in Rajasthan, in Karnataka, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa and Uttar Pradesh. So these are some major groundnut growing areas in India. Okay, let's move on to the question number 7. Consider the following statements about the Central Pollution Control Board. 1. It was constituted in September 1974 under the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. 2. It implements a nationwide ambient air quality monitoring program known as the National Air Quality Monitoring Program. 3. Under the NAMP, 8 major air pollutants including ammonia and lead are monitored on a regular basis at all locations. Which of the statements given above are correct? A. 1 and 2 only, B. 2 and 3 only, C. 1 and 3 only, or D. 1, 2 and 3. Please attempt this question. Okay, so we are talking about the Central Pollution Control Board. It is a statutory body. It was constituted in 1974 under the Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. So this statement is correct. Now it implements a very important thing. It implements a program that's called NAMP, which is the National Air Quality Monitoring Program. So it monitors the air quality of all the different locations that we have in India. So it has some pollutants that have been identified. Some 12 pollutants have been identified and some key pollutants are measured. So out of the 12, some 4 key pollutants are measured on a regular basis at all stations. So the second statement over here says it implements a nationwide ambient air quality monitoring program known as the National Air Quality Monitoring Program. Yes. Under the NAMP, 8 major air pollutants including ammonia and lead are monitored on a regular basis at all locations. No, this is not correct. We have identified 12 pollutants, but out of the 12 pollutants, 4 key pollutants are measured across different locations on a regular basis. So ammonia and lead are not a part of that. We have sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, PM2.5 and PM10. These are the most common major pollutants that we have in our country. So they are monitored on a regular basis at different locations and not all the 12. Okay, so the correct answer here would be 1 and 2 only. Option A. It's a statutory organization constituted in September 1974. Okay, the objective of NAMP includes assessing the status and trends of ambient air quality, determining whether prescribed air quality standards are being violated or not, and identifying non-attainment cities and generating scientific understanding required for formulating, preventing and corrective measures. So you're looking at the air quality that is found in the different cities of India, which pollutants are higher, which pollutants are lower, and then what needs to be done. But if we look at the pollutants that are being identified over here, so 4 key pollutants are regularly monitored at all locations, which are sulfur dioxide, oxides of nitrogen, respirable suspended particulate matter PM10 and PM2.5. So these are the key pollutants that are measured at all times. Ammonia and lead are not a part of it. Okay. Moving on to the 8th question. With reference to the World Trade Organization Agreement on Fishery Subsidies, consider the following statements. 1. It is the first multilateral agreement of the WTO that places environmental sustainability at its core by restricting harmful fishery subsidies. 2. The agreement prohibits subsidies for illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing, for fishing overfished stocks and for fishing on the unregulated high seas. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A. 1 only, B. 2 only, C. both 1 and 2, or D. neither 1 nor 2. Please attempt this question. Done. So here we are talking about an agreement of the WTO on fisheries subsidies. So it's a very recent agreement that was signed just last year, late last year itself, and it talks about reducing the harmful subsidies that we are giving on fishing. So many countries are giving fishing subsidies, and some of these subsidies actually turn out to be harmful because they kind of promote unregulated fishing. They are already they are giving more subsidies on fishing on areas which are already overfished, where we already have a declining population of fish. Even for fishing in those areas, subsidies are being given. So unregulated fishing is being promoted, unchecked fishing is being promoted, the fishing ecosystem is going down, it is declining in multiple locations. So not all subsidies are good subsidies. At times there are also certain subsidies that turn out to be harmful for the environment per se. So in this case, it is one of its kind agreement that has been signed for the very first time at the WTO, where we are going to reduce, where we are going to call out all these harmful subsidies that are being given by certain countries on fishing. So it is the first multilateral agreement of the WTO that places environmental sustainability at its core by restricting harmful fishery subsidies. Yes. Then the agreement prohibits subsidies for illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing, for fishing overfished stocked, and for fishing on the unregulated high seas. Yes. This statement is also correct. So any diesel subsidy that we are given for fishing the high seas, so all these subsidies, they have to be very carefully evaluated whether they are polluting the already polluted environment or not. So based on that, we'll classify some subsidies to be harmful, and then they're going to call out those subsidies. So both the statements are correct in this case, and the correct answer would be option C, both 1 and 2. Okay, so the agreement prohibits subsidies that support illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing, fishing of overfished stocks, fishing in certain high seas areas that are not regulated by a regional fisheries management organization. So both the statements are correct. And for this, a WTO fish fund has also been established for the implementation, and this fund is going to support majorly the developing and the least developed nations, because they are in the lack of funds. Technological support and everything is going to be provided to them. Capacity building support to developing countries and the least developed countries, technical assistance and everything. While a committee on fisheries subsidies will monitor compliance and review subsidy notifications. So a committee is going to review all such policies. Moving on to the 9th question. With reference to Project Aarohan, consider the following statements. 1. It was launched to support the educational aspirations of children of toll plaza employees across national highways. 2. Under the first phase, 500 students from class 6th to graduation and 50 students aspiring for postgraduate and higher studies will receive financial support along with mentorship and career guidance. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? A. 1 only, B. 2 only, C. both 1 and 2, or D. neither 1 nor 2. Please attempt this question first. Done. So here we are talking about Project Aarohan, and it is one of its kind project, because under this project we want to provide assistance to the toll plaza employees' children. So the children who are working, basically who belong, like who are the children of people who are working at toll plaza employees, those children are going to be provided with appropriate assistance, and not just financial assistance like career guidance will also be given, capacity building will also be done for them, appropriate assistance, a holistic measure is going to be taken into consideration over here. It is not just a financial assistance per se. So here it was launched to support the educational aspirations of children of toll plaza employees across national highways. Yes, this statement is correct. It is being done in collaboration with NHAI. And under the first phase, 500 students from class 6 to graduation and 50 students aspiring for postgraduate and higher studies will receive financial support along with mentorship and career guidance. So a slight change over here. It's not class 6 to graduation, it is class 11th to graduation. Class 6 would be too early in this case. Class 11th to graduation and then postgraduate and higher studies also. We are going to help them with financial assistance as well as career guidance also, proper mentorship on which career is going to be good for the people and which is going to be more fruitful. What skills should be developed for those kinds of jobs and everything, that kind of a career. So proper mentorship will be given to 500 students from class 11 to graduation and 50 students aspiring for postgraduate and higher studies under the first phase. So this statement is incorrect, but the first statement is correct. So the correct answer is option A, 1 only. So it's a nationwide educational support initiative launched by the NHAI in collaboration with Vertis Infrastructure. NHAI plus Vertis Infrastructure Trust are actually implementing project Aarohan to provide educational support aspirations of children of toll plaza employees deployed across India's extensive national highway network. Then we will address financial barriers, socio-economic disadvantage faced by students from economically weaker sections, including girls from low-income households, first-generation learners, like for the very first time people are going to schools from their families, and students belonging to the marginalized sections of India. And beyond scholarships, we are also going to give them a holistic approach that will combine financial aid with structured mentorship, skill building workshop, career guidance to prepare beneficiaries for higher education, employment and entrepreneurship as well. Okay. In the first phase, a fund allocation of 1 CR has been received and it aims to support 500 students from class 11 to final year of graduation, each receiving an annual scholarship, and 50 meritorious students aspiring for postgraduate and higher studies, each receiving a scholarship of rupees 50,000. Okay, end of our discussion. Question 10. With reference to Swachh Vayu Sarvekshan 2025, consider the following statements. 1. Swachh Vayu Sarvekshan is conducted annually by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. 2. It evaluates cities based on parameters such as road dust, waste management, vehicular emissions, public awareness, and improvement in particulate matter levels. 3. Among the major metropolitan cities, Chennai was the only one to meet the National Ambient Air Quality Standards for PM10 levels. Which of the statements given above are correct? A. 1 and 2 only, B. 2 and 3 only, C. 1 and 3 only, or D. 1, 2 and 3. Please attempt this question. Okay. So the Swachh Vayu Sarvekshan, it is actually a survey that aims at looking at, that basically looks at or it evaluates the air quality of different cities in our country. So this is brought out annually, yes. By the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs? No. By the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. So it is conducted annually, but by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And it looks at the air quality, the ambient air quality of different cities that we have in India. It evaluates the cities based on parameters like road dust, waste management, vehicular emission, public awareness, improvement in particulate matter levels. Yes. It's a holistic approach. Again, a lot of things are looked at it. A lot of things are evaluated. Road dust, mitigation efforts, public awareness, vehicular emissions, all the 4 key pollutants that we saw under NAMP, those are also considered. And when we talk about the PM10 levels, then among the major metropolitan cities, Chennai was the only one to meet the National Ambient Air Quality Standards. Yes, this statement is also correct. So though multiple cities performed good on this index when it comes to PM10 levels, but among the major metropolitan cities that we have in our country, Chennai was the only one that could meet the levels of PM10, where it was under the permissible limits. So this statement is correct. Statement number 2 and 3 are correct. Statement number 1 is incorrect. So the correct option would be option B, 2 and 3 only. So it's an annual survey that is conducted by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change under the National Clean Air Program to encourage competition among cities and prompt action for improving air quality. And it's a multi-tiered evaluation. A lot of things are evaluated. So there are 8 key parameters: road dust mitigation, solid waste management, vehicular and industrial emission control, construction and demolition waste handling, public awareness, and measurable reductions in particulate matter, 10 levels. So how many parameters? 8 parameters. Conducted annually, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and Chennai was the only major metropolitan country of the country wherein the levels of PM10 were under permissible limits. 22 out of 130 cities, they met this thing, but Chennai was the only big metro city to achieve this benchmark. Okay, so that was for today's discussion. Now, let's look at a practice question. So, practice question, consider the following pairs. We have species and their IUCN conservation status. A. Indian vulture, critically endangered. 2. Red-headed vulture, vulnerable. 3. Egyptian vulture, endangered. How many of the above pairs are correctly matched? A. Only 1. B. Only 2. C. All the 3. Or D. None. Please attempt this question and provide your answers in the comment section. Thank you for watching.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.